Really, it's going pretty quick. This just started a few days ago, and it just started off as a little bit over there, and it's starting to grow even more. This is where I really notice problems, especially this Acropora colony here. And we're going to take a lot of this out today, probably all of it actually, and save what I can. Hey, what's up, Reefers? I'm Reefer Matt. Today's video is the February update, and there's some things going on with the 75-gallon SPS tank, so let's get to it. I got a lot of work to do. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we got some issues going on in this tank. Starting with this acro colony here. This has been going through STN, or slow tissue necrosis, here for a few weeks now, and we're going to take care of this. And also there's another colony behind the Disney there that we're going to take a look at also and see what we can do. I'll give you my tips for getting through slow tissue necrosis on your SPS coral. But before we get to that, I'm just going to take a look at the tank as a whole. And that's what I like to do when issues like this pop up. I don't want to panic and start making assumptions and start adding things to the tank, or just basically driving myself crazy. I look around and see what the damage is, what's going on. Is it affecting all the coral? Is it only affecting some of the coral? And I'll really get in here and look. And as you can see, this one's been pretty beat up. And what my plan for this is, I'm going to cut a lot of that out, and we'll try to save some of it as frags. And I'm also looking at all the other species and all the other Acropora here as well. And just making sure that it's not a widespread problem, but it is in a couple colonies, so something's going on. I just don't know what yet. Zooming in, we get a closer look at the damage of the coral, and you can see how the flesh is peeling off of the skeleton. And I haven't noticed any parasites or anything eating the coral, so I think it has to do with the water chemistry, because I have been having elk swings, and I think that has contributed to this problem here. But they haven't been a lot more than the tank can handle, really, but they've been more frequent, and I think that's the problem. And you can see there's some cyanobacteria growing on there too. That's that red stuff there. And really, that's normal. That's not really affecting the coral. That's just growing on the dead skeleton. So we're gonna cut this out and save what we can. So while we're looking around the tank, I'm just looking at all the different species and making sure that I don't see a lot of the same thing going on. And luckily I don't. It's only isolated to a couple colonies. So I'll do what I have to do to make it better. And a couple other things I've noticed is I'm getting more of this sponge here. So I may remove that. It's not really hurting anything, but it can smother coral if it gets out of hand, so I'm going to watch it. And then I'm getting a little more of these vermitid snails here too. But these guys are kind of little filter feeders. They're not really hurting anything either. They're just kind of unsightly. But you can see they spit out like a little web, if my fish will get out of the way, and they collect all the stuff that's blowing around. So they kind of clean up the water too. And these guys right here were making all the detritus blowing around, these urchins. These guys do a great job at removing algae. However, when they're getting rid of that algae, they got to excrete it. So that's what gets blown around the tank and gets sent down to the sump. The rest of these corals are looking pretty good. So luckily, this problem seems to be isolated to the couple Acropora colonies. And it's not like last year where my Montipora were dying from that change of salt that I made. So I can hear people right now yelling at me saying, hey, ICP, ICP, do an ICP test. And I could, but you got to understand, I will not get those results back for another week and a half or so. So by then, I'm not just going to sit around and wait for this to get worse. I got to act now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out, and after I've made all the changes with the coral themselves, I'm going to do a nice big water change, and I'm going to make sure I reset the chemistry of this tank. And then I may send out for an ICP, but really, even if it tells me something, by the time it comes back, I'm already going to change the parameters in this tank anyway. So it's really not going to help me out much. And here's the top view of the tank. This is where I really notice problems, especially this Acropora colony here. And we're going to take a lot of this out today, probably all of it actually, and save what I can. Over here is the one you saw in the thumbnail for the video. Luckily, so far, knock on plastic, that's all I have up here. It's not the Disney, but it is the Pink Floyd Acro back here, so I may trim off the rest of that little bit of Pink Floyd there. That's actually about 5 or 6 years old, and that's all it's grown, and I'm losing what little was there. So I'm going to trim some of that off, and hopefully I can save some of it, but really it's going pretty quick. This just started a few days ago, and it just started off as a little bit over there, and it's starting to grow even more. All right, and I'll just apologize ahead of time if my fish like to photobomb the camera. They do that all the time. But to frag these out, I'm just getting a little container and some clippers, and I'm going to clip out what I can, what I could save in this little container, and the rest I'm just going to trash that's dead. Well, I couldn't find the other frag I had of this Pink Floyd, but I did get this nice size chunk, and I got some little pieces of the other one. So let's go take these to the frag table, and I'll show you how to save them. And we can talk about what STN is and what we can do about it. All right, I'm going to hook you up with what I know about fragging as well. So you're kind of getting a 3-in-1 video here. You're getting a monthly update, a video about STN, and also we're going to do some fragging. So I also have some other little frag plugs here that I use for those little Acropora pieces. We'll let all those soak for a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, and then start fragging them up. All right, so before we get started, I recommend getting some gloves, especially if you're using this epoxy stuff, because as you can see, it's sort of messy. So it's just a little putty epoxy. You roll it around, you smush it together until it starts to set up. And then we can use it on our frag plug. And all right, I grabbed a fresh pair of gloves so I can touch the coral. And I'll put them on this little frag rack while I'm letting the glue dry. And if you like this rack and you guys are into 3D printing, I'll put a link. I'm actually on Bambu Lab MakerWorld. And this design is available on there for you to print out on your 3D printer. So I'll leave a link for you right here for that. So I'm going to grab this one here, because I want to mount this. And we're going to dip these after we're done too, by the way, just to make sure that there's no bacterial infection or anything on them. And because I really don't know what the issue is. And that's the thing with STN, is there's a lot of guesses on what it is. But when you're seeing STN, what you're seeing is a symptom. You're not seeing the cause. So there's a lot of guesses on what causes it. It's kind of like having a cough or a runny nose. Some people think, well, you know, it could be a cold. Well, sometimes it's not. And the only thing you can do is make sure that your water chemistry and all your parameters are good. And the only thing that I can think of that caused this issue this time was my elk swing. And I could put that on the screen for you here too, so you can see how it's been swinging. And for this, I'm just going to kind of mush it in here. And that super glue is going to help let it set up. And it's okay to let it sit out of the water for like 5-10 minutes. I just want it to set up. And that epoxy kind of gives it a little bed for it to sit in, because if you just try to use super glue, you'll have to use a lot. And sometimes it doesn't really stick and it just creates a mess. So it's easier to use the epoxy super glue trick. And the rest of these, I'll put like a little pea-sized super glue, like that. I'll grab my coral frag, like that. And I want to make sure that I'm above the STN line where it died, and I am on this one. See how it's just all healthy tissue? So I'm going to dip this and skin it up, plunk it in the glue a little bit, and kind of twist it in, and then hold it for a second and let it set up. And sometimes I like to dunk it back in, and then we'll stick it on the rack. And you might have to set something next to it to kind of help prop it up if you have a really heavy frag that wants to fall over. This one might be okay. So I'm going to move on to the next one. But sometimes I got to set like a little cup or something on the rack to kind of help hold the frag up so it doesn't fall off while the glue's setting. Let's set that down there. We'll skin up this glue and do another twist. And if you guys like these frag plugs, I can put up a link to the website where I get them. It's called Magical Reef. And that guy does a really good job on frag plugs. I am really satisfied with them if you want to check them out. And they're really, really good prices too. He has all different kinds of frag plugs there. So check out Ty and Magical Reefs. And tell them Reefer Matt said hello if you guys place an order. This one's got, see how it's kind of dead right there? I want to cut above that, because I think what's going to happen if I remount this, that's just going to keep going up. So before I glue this, let me go get my clippers real quick, and I'm going to cut that back. And I might lose this little one here, but I want to cut above this. I want to cut like right here. And I don't want that in my water either. So good. I was able to cut above it. That's just a little slime on there. And that should be a much better frag. We'll go ahead and push it into the glue. And sometimes with this cheap dollar store glue, it doesn't want to adhere very well, and you kind of got to re-glue it. But so far, so good with this. All right, I got the coral back in the water, and now it's time to dip them. The dip I like to use is Coral RX, just because it's clear, and I can see any critters that come off of coral when I get them in, which I rarely do anymore, but that's why I like to use it. I just use a little capful here and stir it up. So if you get a bunch of coral in, this is the way to do it when you're dipping. Don't put the dip in first, and then as you're unbagging one at a time, put them in there, because as soon as you put the dip in there and the first coral goes in, that starts the timer for that coral. And you can lose track of how long it's been in there. So it's a good idea to just put them all in there first and then add the dip afterwards and then start the timer, which will start right now for 5 minutes. All right, so our timer's up. And I'm going to take these guys and rinse them off in some tank water. And then we'll get rid of this water right here. We don't need that anymore. Definitely don't want to put that back in your tank. These guys are good to go. So we're going to transfer these to the frag tank. So yeah, this is why I'm not too worried about this STN in my main tank, because I have all these that I could put in there. This is my SPS frag tank. And this collection just keeps growing. So I'm going to take these little frags and just find little spots for them in here. And of course my fishies want to be fed. There's one of the little frags that we made right there. There's another one over there. And I just kind of put them around. And the pink Floyd is right there. So hopefully it'll be okay right there. We'll see. Now I got to decide what I want to put in that hole in the tank that we made. It's a tough call. I'll just have to see what color will go good there, but I'm thinking this one right here or that one right there. We'll see. There's a lot of choices in here, like I said, but if you see a favorite one, let me know. Like, put down the minute mark of the video and just shout it out. Be like, that one right there. And maybe we can do something with it. All right, well, this was a journey, wasn't it? So we got a nice hole right here we got to fill. And a spot behind the Disney. Hopefully that won't keep going. And hopefully that pink Floyd will grow back. But if not, maybe we saved it. I'll definitely keep an eye on it and keep you updated in future videos. But what I'm going to do next is a water change. And then maybe I'll do an ICP. But like I said, it's not going to help me after I do the water change. So unless it's something really, really drastic. But I can't wait a week and a half to find out what's wrong with this tank. I have to act now. I don't want this to keep going on. Luckily, I have a lot more of that coral there, what we took out, but I think I want to put something different in there. Let me know in the comments, like I said, if you saw something in the frag tank you want to put there, just put down the minute and second mark of the video, and maybe it'll go there. We'll do a little vote or something. I'm going to keep my eye on the rest of this too. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and if you have any further questions about STN or RTN, please feel free to ask them here. And this is starting to seem like a February thing because this time last year, I was having problems with my Acropora. Remember that? When I changed my salt mix? I'll put a link right here to that video if you haven't checked it out yet. And we can compare to where we're at now. I think we're a lot better than where we were last year, but something's going on. Hopefully I'll get it figured out.